Parsha 101, Haftarah 101. This week's Haftarah is for the Parsha Devarim, which is the first Parsha of the last book of the Torah, so Deuteronomy, because we all know what that means. And the Haftarah comes from the book of Yeshaya, the book of Isaiah, and it's also the third Haftarah of the 3 weeks, the 3 weeks leading up to the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, both of them. On Tisha B'Av, there's 3 weeks of chastisement and rebuke, and then comes 6 weeks of comfort, etc. Even though we know now that even the chastisement and rebuke still end off on a more hopeful note, but there's still the bulk of it's kind of harsh. And this Haftarah is a prime example of that. So it comes from the beginning of the book of Yeshaya, and it talks about, this is the vision, Chazon Yeshaya, the vision of Yeshaya, the son of Amos, in the days of Uzziah, Yosam, Achab, and Chizkiah. These are 4 kings of the tribe of Judah. Chizkiah, the 4th one, that's during the time when the northern kingdom, the 10 tribes, were exiled. So of course there was a descent going on, and there was writing on the wall about what was going to be happening between these with the 2 kingdoms and also the northern kingdom, what was going on there. But they officially were conquered and lost during the times of Chizkiah. So a lot of people say, or a lot of commentaries say, that this prophecy was going on around that time, that Yeshaya could say, listen, King of Judah, you better shape up so you don't turn out like the northern neighbors did, basically. And the Haftarah itself it's very harsh. It speaks about Yeshaya calls upon heaven and earth to listen to what he's going to say. He says, commentaries say the same way that Moshe called upon heaven and earth to be witnesses in the covenant between Hashem and the Jewish people, because heaven and earth are eternal. So now Yeshaya is calling upon them. He's like, let the witnesses come and bear witness to the fact that the Jewish people have not upheld their end of the bargain. God says, I've done for you, I took you out of Egypt, I provided for you, have I not exalted you as a people, etc. Even an ox and a donkey know their master, especially if the master feeds them and takes care of them. They definitely know who their master is. And what have you done? You basically turned Judaism into this cultural endeavor where everyone comes and they participate in ceremonies, but your hearts aren't in it. You're not here with me. You're just kind of going through the motions and like pomp and circumstance, but you don't actually believe in this. You're holding idolatry in your heart, and you're just, you don't really care about the stuff that you're doing. And you've turned away from me. He describes the leaders of the Jewish people as being like Sodom and Gomorrah. So that's how bad the situation is being described as, and just really harsh language about, what have you done and what do you think is going to come of all this behavior, etc. And God says, I don't want your sacrifices anymore. I don't need this hypocritical kind of behavior, etc., etc. A lot of not great stuff like that. But then it says, but clean yourself up, sort yourselves out, do what you got to do to come back to me, basically, is what Yeshaya is saying, is God saying, right? You got to look out for the orphan and the widow and those less fortunate, and you could seek justice, which is a very big theme. In this Haftarah, we've seen the others Haftarah, that when we abandon justice, then we've given up on society and goodness and kindness and all these things. You must have justice. You must do what you got to do, what you're supposed to do. You got to keep order and faith, etc. And so it continues with a little bit of that, and then it goes on with, basically, God says, I'm going to avenge myself on my enemies, those who turn away from me, etc., etc. But that at the end, those who are righteous, those who are left, will come back. And the final line is, Tzion b'mishpat tipada v'shaveh b'tzedakah. Tzion, Zion, is going to be redeemed through justice, and Shaveh, its returnees, its captives, etc., with tzedakah. So we could say tzedakah means righteousness, that righteousness is going to be bringing everyone back, but we can also literally see this as tzedakah. Tzedakah is a massive mitzvah because it's one mitzvah that elevates so much, because so much goes into earning money and then giving that money away as tzedakah. It elevates a massive part of the world, etc. So that's why tzedakah is very closely related to Messianic times, and also to hastening the redemption. Another thing about this week's Parsha is that because of the start of it, Chazon Yeshaya, that this vision of Yeshaya, so this Shabbos before Tisha B'Av is called Shabbos Chazon, in reference to this. But in Hasidic terminology, it's not just about that, it's the vision of Yeshaya. It says that every single Jewish person, their soul this week gets a vision of the third Beis Hamikdash, of let's get this thing built. This is what we're going for. This is what we want to happen, and it's related to this. It's also an interesting thing that Chazon being a vision and Yeshaya comes from the word of Yeshua, which is redemption. So even though we have this harsh prophecy, there's even a promise almost at the beginning of it that there's a vision of redemption that comes, kind of toward the end of it, that's the vision of redemption is still woven within even everything that's the harsh words, etc. It's not just a matter of just telling the Jewish people off and throwing them out. It's a matter of encouraging them to come back. And that's this week's Haftarah.